Thanks very much for joining us. I'm actually quite glad to see there's a number of people in the room even after our big dinner last night, so that's very encouraging. I'm Melissa Adam, Head of Brand and Marketing at NGS Super, and today's session is on the evolution of customer experience. This is something that has been a key focus for our marketing and business strategy, as I'm sure it is for most of the funds in the room. To my mind, though, the challenge lies not only in developing these customer journeys, but also in how we service and implement them, and I'm sure that's something we're going to hear more about today. I would encourage you during the session to share your views and opinions by participating in live polls, asking questions throughout the session. Just make sure you have the correct room selected. We're in arena number 2. In light of today's topic, we're going to start off with a poll on AI. The instructions should be up on the screen in a matter of moments. There we are. So the question is, where is your fund at in terms of its AI journey? Are you A, not using AI at all, B, not exploring AI, or sorry, I should say exploring AI, C, currently at proof of concept stage, or D, we are already using AI in our business? So while we wait to collect the responses, let me introduce our speaker for today, Jodie Sangster, Chief Customer Officer at IBM Watson. Jodie is a leading data-driven marketing specialist and qualified lawyer with over 20 years' experience, including roles in the US, Europe and the Asia-Pacific region. Jodie chairs the Global Alliance of Data-Driven Marketing Associations. She is also non-executive director on the board of Amasim, Australia's 4th largest telco. Now, before I invite Jodie up to speak, I'll just share the results of the poll, which you can see on the screen. So it's quite interesting. There's quite a close split between people who are currently not using AI and exploring AI. So hopefully you'll get some key outtakes from today's session, which might help you forge that ahead. I will also just remind you now that the Q&A is open and will be for the duration of the session, so please send through your questions. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jodie Sangster.
So, thank you so much for having me here this morning. I'm really delighted to be able to talk to you about AI and customer experience. It's a subject matter that I love and I think will be near and dear to many of our hearts. So I am the Chief Customer Officer for Watson Customer Engagement, solely focused on how can we use AI to improve our customer experience. And what I'm going to try and do for you today is give you some practical ways that you can start to introduce AI into your organisations to make things easier for you and to make your customer experience better. I am very mindful that AI is one of these words, it's kind of a buzzword at the moment. Everyone's talking about it, but actually there's not a huge amount of understanding of what AI is. But even more so than that, a lot of companies will sit there and go, well, that sounds kind of futuristic to me. It's not something for my organisation at the moment. So what I'm trying to try and do is just simplify it down so that we can see the areas where perhaps you could leverage it in a quick and easy way to get some good results. Now I'm going to start off with a quick video. And this is really just to kind of encapsulate where we are, and it's just intended to be a bit of fun. I might stop it slightly early before it gets into any technology part of it, but I think it'll give you a good idea of what we're talking about today.
Customer data, you got it, tons of it, and you know your customer. Take Jack, for example. Jack loves waffles. How do you know? Because Sunday Jack said so on social. And last Friday, he'd been searching for a waffle maker in your online store. Boom! Now you're ready to talk to him. Because you know Jack. Except Jack was actually just carving up for a 5K at the end of the week. He's not so much a waffle freak as a fitness freak. But you already assigned him to a target audience, so you're still talking to him about all things waffle. Jack deletes the email without opening it. And then he ignores your SMS. And closes your ad. So you don't know Jack. And to give Jack an experience that would have actually been right for him, you should have had a platform that let your data show that he's not obsessed with brunch, he's obsessed with running. And you also would have known that Jack is actually Jacqueline. If your marketing can't make sense of your data, you don't know Jack.
Okay. So the point we're trying to get to here, look, many of our organisations might actually know we've got Jack and might know that Jack likes waffles. Perhaps hasn't made that next step to actually go, well, actually, Jack doesn't like waffles but likes fitness, and certainly hasn't made it to the stage where we know that Jack is Jacqueline. And by the way, that is perfectly normal. I work with all the large organisations in Australia, and everyone is on this journey. No one has cracked it yet, and we are kind of all in this together. So even if you're at that very beginning stage and thinking, okay, I've got data, but I'm really not leveraging it, don't worry. There are many, many organisations at the same stage as you. So you may not know Jack, but I think the first question we've got to ask is why, or should it be our number one priority within our organisations to get to know Jack? So should customer experience be a number one priority? And I'm going to give you 3 good reasons as to why customer experience is a priority, or should be a priority, for your business today. Number 1, it's a business imperative. So look, 90% of businesses are making improvements in customer experience year on year and investing in that area. And that says to me, it's really, yes, at the moment we talk about it being this kind of key differentiator, but it's going to quite quickly become the norm. So if you're not investing in this area and your competitors are, it is going to see that you are going to kind of get left behind. Second part of this being a business imperative is by 2020, customer experience will overtake price and product as a key brand differentiator. Now, I always laugh about this because you go 2020, that sounded like so far away, and actually it's next year. So what we're saying is that now we are really seeing this shift. As us as consumers, we're wanting to work with companies, we're wanting to buy from brands that understand us as individuals, and we're tending to kind of skew that way, and sometimes we're willing to pay more so that we get that good experience with the companies that we deal with. So it is something that needs to be top of mind. Second reason is sustainability. So 86% of customers who receive a great customer experience go back and repeat purchase from the same customer. And that says to me, we all know we don't want to lose customers. We don't want them going to another fund. We don't want them going anywhere. We want them staying with us. And that's a very high percentage that says if customer experience is right, I'm going to stay. Compared with 13%. So if you have a bad customer experience, and we're all customers in this room, and we know you have a bad customer experience, something goes wrong with the company that you're dealing with, you are quite likely to go, you know what, I can go elsewhere and get better service. So the second reason is sustainability. Third reason, profitability. So companies that delivered an outstanding customer experience grow at 17% per year, compared with those laggards who are at 3% per year. So profitability is another kind of important factor to take into account. So the reason I put this up here is because often in organisations, particularly in the kind of areas that you work in, we look at compliance and other things as a key priority for us. And then often customer experience can come as a nice to do, or something that we can do at a later stage. But what I'm trying to say is it actually is going to be central to business, the success of business moving forward. So it does have to have that same level of focus that we give to other kind of sections of our business. The challenge we've got, is this customer experience divide. So it's this idea that we may think we're doing quite well in this regard, and internally we've got our internal voice in our organisation saying we're not doing badly here, but actually the customers are telling us a different story. And this was a general kind of global research study that was done across 20 countries, thousands of consumers, and there was this consistently, every single country, same thing, this divide between companies, 81% going, oh, I think we're getting there, we've kind of got this single customer view and we think we're being quite personal, and customers going, actually, very, very few of them are happy with the level of customer experience that they're getting. So our job now, today, is to try and find the ways that we can close that gap. And by the way, this is a journey. It is not something that we can change overnight. And I love the panel before, and I'm not sure who said it on the panel before, you can't kind of change everything at once. You've got to pick the biggest pain points and the where you can get the quickest wins. And that's where you start kind of improving your customer experience and using kind of AI to do so. So, why is it so hard? I'm going to briefly kind of skip through this as to why it's so hard. The reason it is so hard, the first reason it's not hard is data. You've got data. Every single company practically in this country has got enough data to be giving a great customer experience. The challenge is bringing that data together and making sense of it and being able to deliver both an insight from it and then being able to act on it. So the first part we've all got. We've got the data, and now we've got to find a way to put that data into some sort of format that we can use within our business rather than having it siloed across different databases. We've got to find ways to leverage that data and understand what that data is telling us, which is in itself quite hard. But the hardest part is then you've got the insight from the data. What is the action that I need to take from that so that I can deliver up a different experience? And this goes between multiple divisions within an organisation, and often by the time it's got to actually the actionable piece, things have kind of gone awry along the way and that the action doesn't happen. So it's a challenge. Second reason is because we've got so many channels. I mean, it's just out of control. And if you're a marketing or customer experience, you would know this. The way that we as consumers now want to converse and interact and engage, it's not consistent. I may like working on SMS, for example, but my colleague might like email, and someone else might like to be on the phone. Some people like chatbots, some people don't. And you're dealing with all of this, and what you're trying to do is make this kind of seamless and consistent and a great experience across every single one of these channels. And that's compounded by many channels not sitting within the purview of one part of the organisation. You'll often have a digital team or a marketing team or different teams that are looking after these different channels. So consistency across them becomes even more tricky. And I'm going to come on to how you try to start to solve for that problem. The third reason this is difficult is because of what we are actually trying to achieve. And we're trying to achieve 4 key things here. And this is my view on it, so it's probably slightly simplified, but you get the idea of the type of things that we're trying to do here. So we're trying to be consistent, and what that means is that we're having a high-quality, consistent experience every single time one of your members comes to you, or you go to them. So every time, every single touch point is consistent, and they know they are dealing with you as a company and you as a brand. The second thing we're trying to do is make it seamless, and that may be that you're being seamless between each of the channels that your members may converse with you on, so that they feel that whatever channel that they come to you on, they are getting the same kind of experience and the same level of experience. So it might be between channels, which by the way is where a lot of companies struggle. It's quite clunky going between maybe an app and a website, and it's not a great experience. But it could also be just on your kind of digital assets now. So it could be on your website, a seamless experience on your website. And do you know that you've actually got that seamless experience? If someone's coming to you for something specific, can they actually get it in a very quick, easy and efficient way? And that's seamlessness. And we'll come back to how you solve for that. The third is efficient, and what I meant by efficient when I kind of put this together is I meant that efficient means it needs to be in the moment, and I think it was John mentioned about being in the moment, real time. When someone's having an issue, that you're there. If something's happened to one of your customers, that you are proactively able to reach out to them in that moment when it's timely and relevant for them, okay? So that's efficient, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then the last area is personalised, and I think even more than a buzzword around AI, I think personalisation is probably the most overused term of the moment, and it is something that we are all trying to do as organisations. But personalised means basically specifically tailored to me, based on my behaviours, my wants, my needs, my interests. So you understand me as a person and you're actually responding to that. And that is much more than just putting a Dear Jodie at the top of an email communication and then the rest of that communication being standard form. So I'm going to go into each of these in a little bit more detail later on as to kind of how you can do it. Ooh. Artificial intelligence, how can it help? Okay. So this is artificial intelligence, and actually, and again, I'm not sure who it was. Might have been John, might have been Mary. I was talking about, that machines aren't going to take over, and he was entirely right in that. That is not what artificial intelligence is about. It's about augmenting our intelligence so that we can do things better, quicker, and at scale. And if you want a kind of the dummy's guide to AI, which is what I needed when I joined IBM, it's basically the difference between, at the moment when you have a computer program or you have automated marketing, you have to make a choice. You say, if this and this happen, then do that. So you program technology with the answer that you want it to do. But the problem with that is it's hard to scale, because how do you know every single ramification to then predict out and go, well, if this and this happens, do that, or if this happens and that doesn't happen, then do this. So you're left in this situation where you're trying to manually predict predict everything that's going to happen to your customer when they're dealing with your organisation, and it's not possible to scale that. So this is where AI steps in, and rather than giving AI the answer, you give AI, you give them lots of answers, and you have the machine learn the answers for itself. So the example that I would give you would be, So we did a project here in Australia around melanoma, skin cancer. And rather than teaching a machine that if you see this, it means it's cancer, you actually feed the machine with all sorts, huge number of examples of what is and what isn't. And over time, the machine learns itself what the answer is. So you don't have to say it is or it isn't. You're saying, go and reference all of that material out there and make the decision yourself. So when you apply this to customer experience, you're no longer having to say if this and this happens, do that, because it's learnt itself. If this and this happens, this is the right answer and this is what should happen next, okay? And for that reason, this is why AI, people are so excited about AI, because all of a sudden you can scale all of those things that you want to do with your customers, and you don't have to program it with answers. And I'll give you some examples around that. And the other point around this is why AI or machine learning is not going to replace humans is because we're both good at different things, okay? So as humans, we are great at common sense, we're great at imagination, we are great at design, we're good at dreaming, generalization, creativity, all of those things. We are empathetic. That's what we excel at, and the skills that really we should be leveraging. And on the other side of things, we've got machines. And machines are really good at finding patterns, automating simple tasks, processing at scale, providing endless capacity. So the idea behind this is that you plus a machine should be 1 + 1 = 3. And that's how you should look at AI in your business. It's not about replacing jobs. It's about making people better at their jobs, making them more efficient at their jobs so that they can do more. All right, and AI will help you in kind of 3 key ways. It'll help with productivity. So now, for example, you can have an AI marketing assistant that sits alongside your marketers or your customer experience experts, and it can be helping kind of pull data together really quickly. So the type of example would be that you can now ask a machine a question like, what was our most effective marketing campaign from last year? And now, if you asked a marketer to do that, that would take them probably a day or so to get all of that information together to actually be able to provide that report. Whereas an AI assistant can do that in about kind of 1.5 seconds and can pull that information up and go, there it is, that's your most effective campaign from last year. And you can then ask the question, well, what was the subject line? Or, what was the kind of key driver in that? And then it can compare all of the previous campaigns and look at why was it that campaign was specifically the one that was the most effective. So what it's basically doing is churning through huge amounts of data that takes us a long time to do, and then delivering up an answer for you so that you can act on it. So that's why it increases productivity. And it does that across so many sectors. Same in healthcare. It can look at all these enormous kind of reports, medical journals, etc., and pull out information at an instant, making doctors much more productive. The second point is it will reduce cost. It will reduce costs for all sorts of reasons, basically down to efficiencies. But the example that I would give you here is a reduction in media spend, and that's a tiny, tiny example, but I just wanted to be able to kind of point something out for you. So, for example, at the moment, if you're advertising, you're out there in the big wide world advertising, you will probably either use an internal media expert or an external media agency who will be buying that media for you. And you're spending quite a lot of money to make sure that your super fund is the one that's seen out there in the market. By using machine learning, you can start to have the machine look for patterns. What's working? Who's doing what? What's resonating? What's not resonating? What's driving the best result for you? And in doing so, you can quite quickly funnel down to the media that's actually going to return a result for you. And in doing that, so we did that internally, and we saved about 50% cost and got the same result. So it's that sort of thing. It's that churning through. It's learning the patterns that AI can do really simply for you to deliver a business result. And then the last point is profitability. And there's a report at the top there, and that I've taken that screen grab there from an Accenture report. So if you just look up Accenture AI impact by sector, you can pull down that report. And it literally goes through every single industry sector and says, what is going to be the impact of AI on profitability? Okay, and it kind of grades it there for you. And at the top there, right at the top, is education, where they're saying, okay, AI is going to help in profitability by 84%. So they're the kind of business drivers that sit behind it. And how does this look today? So we had a brief conversation on the panel about how a couple of the funds are starting to use AI in their organisations. So I tried to put together a graph to simplify this, because it is the question I probably get asked the most is, okay, well, that sounds great, Jodie. I've bought into the concept. Show me where it can be used. So what I tried to do was put together a graph to show where AI can be used in your customer journey today to drive a different result. And this shows you two things. One is there are it's really about choosing the point in your customer journey that needs the most fixing, or needs something different to be happening with your customers, so that you can deliver up that better customer experience. And once you've identified that, then you can start to look at, okay, is there something that's actually going to help me to do that? So always start with your customer journey first. What's happening? Where are the pain points? What do I need to fix? What's going to give me the most bang for my buck here? And then look to how AI can help you to deliver up a different experience. And I'm going to talk to a couple of these areas today, but I'm happy to make this available if anyone wants it, because it's a good reference point to go, okay, kind of starting to understand how it can apply. I think the other point about this is that there are point solutions. It is not about, AI isn't this amazing thing you're just going to kind of plug into your company and it's going to suddenly learn all these things and be doing things differently for you. It is very much about finding the kind of point solution that you need and to drive that result. And I'll come back to this a little bit later on. So, coming back to this, I'm going to give you 4 examples of companies that are doing it well, and I was glad to hear that you look outside of just super when you're looking to experiences that really stand out and how companies have done that. So I'm going to start with consistent. So consistency requires you to make sure that every time a customer comes to you, they are feeling that it's the same kind of look and feel. They're getting the same information from you, and that information that they're getting from you is highly relevant to them as an individual. So it means that if they're coming onto your app, that you're understanding who they are, what they do, and serving up the right content to them so that they feel that you know who they are. Okay, and the same will apply if you're on an email, and the same will apply if they've hit your website. It doesn't matter. Every time that they hit one of your touch points, it should be consistent. But what often happens is it looks a little bit like this, is that you've got your app being served content through kind of one system, you've got your website kind of having content through something else, and so it all becomes a little bit disjointed. And when someone goes from the app to the website, it's not showing that the same sort of information to them, so they're kind of starting the experience again. So you need to kind of move from something that looks a bit like this to something that looks more like this. And this is what is now called headless content. So if you want to take a nice buzzword away with you so that you can use it in your office, this is called headless content. And what headless means is it doesn't matter where that content's going to go. It's coming from a single repository, and it is serving it up based upon what the customer is asking for on the other end. So if they go onto the app and ask for something, they're going to get the same content as if they go onto the website and ask for something, and you can also kind of serve that out by email to them, but it's all coming from one repository. How does AI help you here? How it helps you is that you're going to end up with a lot of content sitting in one repository. And I know in my previous roles, in my previous marketing roles, you end up creating all this content, and it's fabulous content, but how on earth do I make sure that that's the content that gets served up? And what I don't do is just go on creating more and more and more content for my customer to consume and forget about all the great work that I've done previously. And this is where AI can help you. So, it's called cognitive tagging. So in the same way that AI can look at melanoma and kind of know that that is or it isn't, the same sort of technology is used for content. So you can put all of your content through an AI platform, and it can automatically tag that up for you. So it can look at a blog or a video or whatever it is, the article, whatever it is that you want to put into it. It can look through that and go, okay, I know what this content is, I know what's within it, and it tags it up for you. So that next time that someone comes in and they're looking for something specific, it can be matched up with a tag that you have, that AI has attached to your content, and make sure that that is what's served up to your customer, making it highly relevant. So that's the kind of premise of it, and I put myself in there just for a bit of a laugh. So there I am. I put my LinkedIn photo into the AI platform to see how I was tagged up. And this is me. So apparently I am a newsreader, a person, woman, television reporter. Purple was my top, reddish orange colour was my hair, female, and that's why I put it on the screen there, because apparently, according to Watson, I'm 23 to 26. We're going with that, and we're staying right there. Now, what you may be thinking is, well, that's all very well, Jodie, but actually, the AI has got that wrong. You're not 23 to 26, so it's got it wrong. This is the point. So then you will have, internally, you will have someone, probably in your marketing or CX team, who's monitoring your AI as it's learning. And it'll pick that up and go, that's wrong, okay? The right age is, and I'm just going to leave that blank for the moment, but the right age is this. So next time the AI sees an image, it's not going, okay, she's 23 to 26. It's saying that she's substantially older than that, okay? So it's this kind of constant learning process. So you do have to teach AI. You have to teach it, same way as you have to teach a child. So it understands what it's looking at, but over time it gets better and better and better. And then to a point that you won't need to be teaching it anymore. It will understand what that content is itself. Okay, and then it's about knowing your content. So you've done that, and you might look at this and go, okay, well, you know, what's this piece of content? And it's going to put tags on it, and it'll always come up with the colour red, because red is in there. And obviously, if you looked at the correlation between these, you as a human would go, well, they've all got red in there. Okay, what's so great about that? I tell you what's great about it is that AI can go further than just looking at the basics that we would look at. It can start to make correlations between content that we might not necessarily see, or that may be kind of difficult for us to do in terms of having the resource or the time to be able to do it. So if you look at something like this, this is a holiday website, and us as a human would look at that and go, well, I can see the correlation, it's all got beaches on it. Okay, so fine, we've all made that correlation. But where AI is making the correlation is picking up the kind of the deeper content within that and saying, actually, each of these destinations is good for golf, for climbing, for family, for and best to go in April. So it's making those more kind of deep correlations between content, so that rather than just serving up something that's red because someone has said that they like red, it can go much deeper than that to help you be more personal. All right, so that's content and consistency. And now we're going to move on to seamless, and I'll be a bit quicker. For seamless, as I said to you before, remember, seamless can be about seamlessly going between the channels that you're engaging with your customers on, or it could be on a specific channel and making sure that when someone comes to do something specific, that they can do it. Because there is nothing worse than when you get somewhere, you've obviously gone to the asset or the website or whatever it may be for a specific reason, and you get there and you can't do it. It's so frustrating, and it really is a bad customer experience. Now, I'm hoping this is going to work. AI can be used as your eyes and ears across all of your different digital platforms to see whether actually the customer is having a good experience with you, or if they've got to a point that something's gone wrong. Now, I'm hoping, okay, it's playing. Keep our fingers crossed here. So this is the website. A colleague of mine from work has gone onto here, and he is going off to buy some insurance. And it's a relatively simple process, a very nicely designed website, and he's just going to go through the process, and he's going to fill all the bits and pieces in. Now, the challenge with this is that he gets to a certain point in this journey, and he hits an error stage where he's answering the question correctly, but actually the website is throwing back an error report to him and saying, you've answered the question wrong. And it's this point here. At what age did you gain your driver's license? And he puts in 16. He's from New Zealand. So he said 16, and it says here, I'm sorry, because the driver is less than 18 years of age, you can't complete this transaction. Now, two things have happened here. One, that wasn't the question that was asked. It was, when did you get your driver's license? And two, he's hit a point that he can't go any further, which is a problem. So he's got a choice at this stage. He can do one of three things. He can either lie and say, put in 18. But as we know, for that sort of product, that nullifies insurance. That's not a good way to go. So that's not going to work. So his second choice is he can go, well, you know what, all too hard. I'm sure there's someone else who's going to offer me insurance and I'm going to go elsewhere, which is probably the likely outcome of that. Or he phones the call centre. And as we all know, that is a very expensive way to be acquiring customers. And what you're trying to do is make that acquisition of that customer, one, not a very painful experience, and two, as cost effective as possible. So any of those outcomes aren't great. So what do you do about it? What you do about it is you can now use AI to monitor those platforms, okay? So it doesn't matter whether it's an app or a website or whatever it is, it can monitor everything. And it's looking for, what it learns, the piece it learns is what's normal. What's normal on this platform at this time with these customers? And it will continually learn that. And when something goes wrong, like this, AI can then go, we've spotted something that's called an anomaly. We spotted an anomaly, the flag goes up. Something has happened here that you need to now look at, okay? And you might go, well, we can actually do that anyway. We've got Google Analytics that shows everyone's falling off the web page because they can't answer the question correctly. But it goes further than that, because AI can then help you dive into every single session that's gone wrong, so you can see what's happened. And that's what this is. This is just a session taken out of AI, which is you're replaying the session to see what's happened, what's gone wrong. And then the last part, which is really important, it will then prioritise it for you. So it will then learn your business and understand what's the financial impact of that happening. How many millions of dollars are you going to lose if you don't fix that? And it will prioritise all of your fixes for you, so that you can go off to your dev team and go, this needs to be fixed now, number one priority, because of the impact on our revenue and our customers. And it helps the business then to kind of be focusing on the right things in terms of customer experience. And that's a very simple kind of application of AI, which is kind of easy to implement, but has great outcomes. And it looks a little bit like this. This is kind of what and this is just a kind of sample one, but it's kind of going, look, something's happened here. It's telling you the value of what's happened, and then prioritising so you to go, this is the one you need to fix first. The other beauty of this actually is that if you've got somebody who is struggling, so they've hit a point where they can struggle, because the flag's gone up, you can actually then have AI step in to help that person. So you could, for example, connect up a chatbot or something similar with that says, okay, if someone is struggling, bring up an assistant, a virtual assistant who can help that person through a process. So that's a relatively easy way of doing it. Or it could be, actually, I see a struggle, get someone to phone or get them to phone the call centre. You can kind of help that customer on that journey to get over that next part of it, rather than sitting them there kind of pulling their hair out. And the part I love, don't know if you've ever heard of rage clicks. I hadn't. So you can have AI monitoring your apps as well. So if you're finding someone's on an app and they're kind of going, like I do when something's gone wrong, it's like if I press it 20 times, it might work. That's called a rage click. So that, again, it's an anomaly. It will flag and say customers are having problems with this. You know, they're continuing to click, or they're always increasing the screen size, which would say to you, you've got your UX wrong, and actually they can't see what it is that they're trying to do on the app. So it's giving you that kind of insight to go, how do I make my customer experience seamless? All right, efficiency. What I said about efficiency was it is about making sure it's in the moment. So how do you help your customer in that moment? Either that they are just about to do something which is good for the company, they might sign up or something like that, so how do you actually step in at that point? Or how is it that if something's gone wrong, you can step in as well? So my example for this was Qantas, who I'm a big fan of after this experience. So I'm on my way to the airport, Sydney, Monday morning. I've checked in on the app the night before. And I'm getting to the airport at about 6 a.m. In an Uber, and I hit a traffic jam. And for me, I'd only just started my job. It was very kind of important that I got down to Melbourne, and I'm sitting in a taxi just kind of going, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And as it's getting kind of closer and closer to the time, I'm getting more and more anxious. And at that moment, I got a call from Qantas saying, Jodie, we can see you're not going to make it to the airport in time. We've put you on the next flight. Now, First thing is, you might go, well, that's slightly creepy. How do they know that? To be honest with you, at the point I didn't care. Be as creepy as you like. But the point is, that's not difficult. It's the same sort of thing. So they've got my location. I've checked in on the app. The app's open, right? They know where I am. And they've used that information. They've done the same sort of thing. They've got AI monitoring and going, actually, this customer is not going to make it. Now, they're not going to do that for everybody. It's not cost effective to do so, but it is cost effective if you've got a frequent flyer who's going to be flying with you very often. And so they've used that. They've used AI to monitor what's going on. It's then triggered to a call centre who has then phoned me to say, OK, you're on another flight. And that benefits everybody. It benefits me. It benefits them because their flights are full. And it certainly benefits them because I've just told a room of however many hundred people about the experience. Last one, and we're racing through, almost there. Personalised. I'm going to use the most simple example here, and I know it's not, it is different from Super, but it's the same point about being personalised. And it kind of comes back to content that we talked about previously, and making sure that you've got content that is relevant to the person that you are communicating with. So this is me shopping. So each week I get my extremely personalised email. And this is where I say it's different from just going, "Dear Jodie, and here's the products you bought last week." They've tried to really personalise it down to the point that it is truly relevant to me. So no two emails that go out through this are the same. Every single customer gets a different one. And it talks about the amount of rewards I'm going to get. It talks about the specific amount of saving that I'm going to get. It's products relevant to me. And even better than that, in the back end, they have connected this up with their supply chain. So they've got AI monitoring the supply chain. So what have we actually got in store that we can sell? What are the things that we've got more of? So it would therefore be good if people bought those sorts of things. And they're using AI to monitor all of this and then serve up an email to me. So the things that are going to come through to me are both things that I've purchased previously, that they have in stock at my specific store, and things that they need to be actually selling more of because they've got a supply of them. So they're using it for both personalisation but also business efficiency. And I'd just like to point out what I've been eating over here, because this was the most healthy one. I literally went back through every week and went, right, what's the one where I've been eating grapes, tomatoes? That never happens, but this was the one, so I'm going to use this one too. So at the moment I'm 23 years old and extremely healthy. All right. Okay. So back to this. I've talked about a couple of the areas here, and the reason I'm bringing this back up is because I've probably only touched on 4 or 5 of those areas at the moment. But they're kind of point things that you can see do make a big difference. So I've talked about adaptive content, making sure your content that you're serving up is highly relevant. I've talked about intelligent sequencing, using AI to serve up things that you've actually got a lot of because you need to sell more of those. I've talked about behavioural analytics, this idea that you've got AI monitoring all of your assets all of the time and looking for behaviours that is going right or wrong with the customer so that you can fix them for them. And I talked briefly about chatbots as well. So if you take one thing away from today, if anyone says AI to you and you go, yes, I know what that means, it's chatbot, today is the day you stop saying that, because chatbot is the most small part of AI, and it actually is so much broader, but unfortunately it seems that AI and chatbot, the term has been put together. All right, so we're nearly there. How to get started. And you've had quite a lot of advice from the panel already around how to get started. So I'm going to try and address a couple of these for you. The first one is that I'm not sure who it was on the panel, maybe it was John, said that the reason he felt very good about this is because he had, or maybe it wasn't, maybe it was Mario, had buy-in from the top. And we've got an organisation that actually buys into this concept of 1, customer experience, and 2, improving it, and then 3, kind of using technology to get there. You may not be in that great position. And if you're not in that great position, you just have to approach it in a different way. So if you've got buy-in from the top, fantastic. Get your strategy sorted, really understand the customer journey, and you can get going from there. If you haven't got buy-in from the top, you start the other way around, and you go, right, I'm going to pick the smallest thing that I can do that maybe can go under the radar and that is a low investment amount, and do a proof of concept, and then grow it from there. So take something really little, you're going to spend like 50 grand or something like that, and start somewhere with one of your customer pain points, show it works, and then take that up. And that's the other way to do it. And I see organisations do it both ways. And once you've got that proof of concept, and once you can show the ROI, and you can show the improvement on customer experience, some of the constraints do come off. The second thing about getting started, or one of the biggest questions we get is, well, that again sounds fantastic, but our data is in no sort of position to be able to be using it for AI. It's all over the place, it's not clean, it's not consistent, so what do I do then? Do I have to get all of that sorted out first of all? The answer to that is kind of, yes, you do. And by the way, you're going to have to anyway. This is not about AI. This is about generally understanding your customer. So do you have to focus on getting your data into kind of some sort of legible, usable, centralized form? Yes, you do. Okay. But that doesn't stop you from starting in some areas if you wanted to. So for example, if you look at behavioral analytics, and that was the one where we were picking up anomalies or things that are going wrong with the customer experience, that doesn't need any data to start. That just needs a digital asset, it needs a website, and you can get started with that. Okay, so yes, focus on your data, but don't then be put off or use it as an excuse to go, I can't get started because my data's not in the right format. Find the other areas where you can get started. And the third thing I'd say about getting started is the AI is going to be the very, very worst on the day that you launch it. Okay, it is learning technology. So the day that you put your first kind of AI delivery out into the market, so say it was a chatbot, that day is going to be the worst it'll ever be. And then from there, it is continually learning and learning and learning and learning, and it will get better and better and better and better. Which means that the later that you come to this game, you're always going to be behind. So if you're kind of in early, you'll get the benefit of that learning early. And if you come in later, you're going to have to then play catch up, and your competitors will always be a step ahead. So it is something to probably start thinking about now, about how you can bring that into your business. So the kind of core advice would be, first of all, start with an understanding of your customer journey. Just map it out. Bring in the people from the business. Map out the journey. What does it look like? Okay, and then identify the opportunities where it's just not great at the moment. You know there's a problem. Identify all of those, and then look at, okay, what are the ones? Some of them are going to be such a hard fix. That's okay. But choose the ones where you go, actually, if I could fix this, I could do it relatively quickly. It'll have a big impact on the customers, and I can probably get a quick return on investment. That's where I recommend you start. So don't bite off the one thing that's going to take forever to do, because you'll lose support in your organisation for doing those sorts of projects. So start small with something that's going to have maximum impact and get going there. Develop a proof of concept, and if you can, try and get the leadership buy-in. But as I've said, if you haven't got a leadership buy-in from the start, that's okay. Start and take the results to them. And I can tell you from speaking to boards, etc., the reason often that companies aren't embracing this is more a lack of understanding than it is from a lack of willingness. So once it's kind of surfaced up, you'll probably find you have support. So that's it from me. I rushed through it. I think I got there. Please do get in touch if you've got any questions. And I also, I've got a LinkedIn group which is nothing to do with IBM. I just run that myself, called AI Inspiration Zone. So if you want to go on there, there's a whole bunch of people that are talking about this subject matter and sharing kind of ideas and thoughts, etc. So it'd be perfectly great to have you as part of that if you'd like to be involved. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time for questions, so thank you for everyone submitting your questions. As Jodie mentioned, you can get in contact with her alternatively. I just wanted to mention that as a token of appreciation that a donation has been made to the First Nations Foundation, and I've also been asked to remind you that morning tea is now on. So could I just ask you to join me in thanking Jodie one last time?